Right this moment, a doorway has unlocked within your awareness. This isn't just some poetic idea or a mental image you can casually observe and then brush aside. It is a genuine boundary, a true precipice, and whether you are fully aware of it or not, you are currently positioned right at its edge. A hidden force guided you to this exact point. It moves beneath your everyday decision-making deeper than the impulses that dictate what videos you click, skip, or ignore. Instead of a calculated choice, it acts as a vibrational match. An unseen magnetism drew this experience into your reality long before your logical brain could intervene. That very attraction, the mysterious pull that anchored you to this precise time and place, is your initial clue. This doorway doesn't arrive with loud declarations. Rather, it reveals itself by forcing you to face what can no longer be ignored. A specific sensation has been lingering within you. It might have been days, months, or perhaps so much time has passed that you gave up hoping for clear answers. You've just accepted it as part of your daily load, bearing it silently, feeling a constant, subtle tension of an incomplete journey. You likely feel suspended between an old identity and a new one, unable to firmly grasp either. Your current reality might seem thin or sheer, as if you are peering right through it into a deeper layer of existence hidden below. You might be torn between feeling terrified by this transparency or relieved that it has finally arrived. That exact experience is the doorway, that sheer quality. The limbo of being stuck in a hallway where both doors are only slightly ajar. That is the internal reality of a transition phase. Countless individuals waste decades trapped in that hallway, blind to its true nature. They fail to see that their confusion is actually the compass. Feeling detached from your former life isn't an issue you need to fix. It is simply a bridge you are meant to walk across. This message is dedicated to that exact crossing. We are focusing on the current state of your energetic blueprint shifts that have been occurring long before you could articulate them. We will explore the immense possibilities that unlock the second you recognize this precipice and make the intentional choice to walk forward. Here is our shared roadmap. First, we will identify this doorway. We will examine both realms objectively, the world you are currently leaving behind, and the terrain awaiting you ahead. We will dive into the quantum principles behind how human awareness transcends these boundaries. It doesn't happen through slow, baby steps. It occurs through instantaneous, radical shifts in state that restructure your entire reality in a single heartbeat. After that, we will make the leap. This won't be a mental exercise or a passive daydream. It will be a literal upgrade in your dominant frequency. You will undergo a tangible transformation from one energetic state to the next, and you will notice undeniable, concrete changes in your life shortly after this session concludes. Before we proceed, you must grasp what you are truly facing. This doorway is vastly misunderstood by the masses. It is not a cosmic gold star or a prize for doing intensive inner work. It isn't a finish line you finally reach through endless spiritual seeking. Instead, it is purely a vibrational boundary. It is the moment when your internal vibration has become sufficiently unified and powerful to enter a dimension of reality, vibrating at a completely different pitch than your previous environment. The main obstacle blocking your path forward is absolutely not a lack of worth. It isn't because you aren't enlightened enough, nor is it a secret piece of universal wisdom you failed to uncover. It is interference. Right now, a distinct type of energetic static is looping within your field. This noise has been active for an extended period. It doesn't belong to you, and it never did. Yet, because it has lingered for so long, it feels like the normal fabric of your existence, much like the buzzing of an old appliance that your brain eventually tunes out. Even unseen, it constantly drains your power, injecting a subtle corruption into every signal you send out into the world and every message you receive. This static is the reason the doorway seems impenetrable. It is the illusion that turns an open passage into a solid brick wall. It intercepts your true vibration, the clear, potent frequency of your deepest, authentic self. and scrambles the broadcast just enough to prevent you from anchoring yourself. It disrupts your ability to stabilize in the new state, keeping the transition from becoming permanent. But here is the secret to defeating that static. The instant you recognize its true nature, the second you identify it, instead of feeling it as an unexplainable roadblock, its power dissolves. This static relies entirely on staying hidden. It survives by tricking you into thinking it is your actual reality. The very moment you can distinguish the noise from your pure underlying signal, your journey forward has already started. You have already taken that initial stride across the boundary. Therefore, it's time we examine this static face to face. We must identify this static by name. We need to map its architecture and discover exactly how to dissolve it. You won't defeat it by fighting, nor will you overcome it through sheer willpower. The solution is much more graceful and infinitely more potent: vibrational alignment. This is the very same rule quantum physics has outlined for over a century. It is the universal law dictating all transformations. Whether it is a wave function collapsing, liquid water freezing into solid ice, or a human mind leaping into a totally new paradigm, the portal unlocks the moment your internal vibration mirrors the vibration of your destination. That is the entire secret. That is the literal physics behind the leap. And by the conclusion of our time together, your vibration will have adjusted sufficiently to create that alignment. The doorway won't simply unlock. You will have already walked past it. Let us dive in. To grasp the nature of this static, you must comprehend the mechanics of energetic fields. I don't mean this in a vague, mystical way, but as a literal, functional reality. Every single entity, whether material, organic, or conscious, sustains its current condition via vibration. It hums at a specific pitch, and that pitch dictates its form. Liquid water isn't fluid because of some arbitrary rule. It is fluid because the molecular vibration of H2O under those specific room temperature conditions mandates that form. Alter the vibration, add or subtract thermal energy, and its condition transforms. The exact same building blocks instantly rearrange into a totally new state of being. Human awareness operates identically. Your present mindset, the specific mood you rise with, the unique filter shaping your worldview, the dominant pitch you broadcast is held together by resonance. It relies on overlapping habits that strengthen one another, locking into a secure, self-perpetuating loop that endures day after day. This isn't a design flaw. We require steadiness. If your mental framework fluctuated wildly and randomly, your life would lack cohesion. You couldn't operate or navigate a society that demands predictable perception. That vibrational steadiness is the very thing granting you a consistent identity over time. Yet, this is where the trap lies, and where the static creeps in. The energetic bubble sustaining your current identity isn't filled solely with your authentic broadcast. It absorbs everything it encounters, every environment you've occupied, every dynamic that molded your nervous system, every societal myth you swallowed before you learned to evaluate it, every painful memory that carved its echo into your aura, and every inherited assumption about your identity that was forced upon you. All of those elements are swirling inside you. All of them dictate the hum that keeps your current identity fixed. Astonishingly, the vast majority of the glue holding your reality together doesn't belong to you. It never did. It was implanted there by external influences completely disconnected from your true essence, your genuine frequency, or your real reason for existing. This is the static. It isn't a malicious entity. It isn't an enemy, and it didn't attack you. It is simply gathered noise from an environment functioning at a much denser, lower pitch than your true self. You have navigated this dense world for so long that its rhythm has coated your personal field. It hasn't erased your core broadcast, it never could. Your true essence is invincible, programmed at a depth impossible to overwrite. Instead, it blankets your essence, much like white noise drowning out a clear radio station. This makes receiving clear messages incredibly hard, and transmitting your truth even harder. It blurs the line between your authentic voice and the gathered noise of everything that was never you. The bone-deep fatigue you carry is valid. That persistent feeling of being an outsider, of failing to tap into the brilliant version of yourself you know is hiding inside, that is legitimate. That intuitive pull suggesting a brighter, more aligned, deeply intentional life is waiting just across an invisible border that is absolute truth. Every bit of this stems from the gap between your true vibration and the layer of static polluting your system. You experience this gap as grinding friction, a lingering suspicion that life is just slightly out of tune, slightly wrong, even during moments that look perfect on paper. That very friction is the doorway. That tension is the ultimate proof that you are close enough to the precipice to actively sense the contrast between your past and your future. And the very realization that you can sense this tension, that it has become a conscious awareness instead of just background static, proves you are primed for the leap. If these words resonate deeply within you, be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss future insights. Let us clarify what stepping through this portal truly entails, as this is precisely where confusion derails so many journeys. Society typically views inner growth as a slow climb. We are taught to put in the hours, collect various habits, and piece together wisdom over time. The assumption is that you gradually morph into your desired self, like pouring water into a glass or hiking up a steady incline. It's viewed as a step-by-step, linear addition. However, genuine transformations do not operate that way. True evolution of the mind defies gradual steps. Consider boiling water. You can raise the temperature steadily, and for a prolonged period, nothing visibly shifts. It merely becomes hotter liquid. You apply further heat, and it remains fluid. Yet, upon hitting one exact thermal threshold, a sudden rupture occurs. It doesn't happen in fractions. The entire molecular structure radically alters in a flash. Physically speaking, it is a discontinuous leap. The liquid doesn't slowly fade into vapor. It breaches a critical limit and instantly vaporizes. That is known as a phase transition. This exact mechanism dictates every profound metamorphosis in the cosmos. It is never a gentle slope. It involves a precipice, a leap, and a sudden arrival. At the deepest layers of reality, quantum physics illustrates this perfectly. A particle existing in a state of superposition, holding multiple possibilities at once, does not slowly ease into a final outcome. Instead, it instantly collapses upon a specific interaction. The limbo shatters, and a single truth materializes. This shift takes zero time. There is no gray area. You have simultaneous possibilities, followed immediately by concrete reality. Your mind functions on these exact rules. You have been living in a psychological superposition, harboring both your past identity and your future self at the exact same time. You are caught in the tug-of-war between the comfort of yesterday and the magnetic draw of what lies beyond the boundary. That suspended animation is the very hallway you find yourself trapped inside. It is the definitive symptom of standing at the edge. And taking the leap, the genuine shift in reality will never be a slow progression. You cannot simply do enough inner work until you passively float into a higher frequency. It demands a collapse. It requires a singular instant where the limbo shatters, and your upgraded reality takes hold permanently, instantly, and absolutely. So, the core issue isn't whether you possess the ability to cross. It has nothing to do with earning spiritual badges, tallying up meditation hours, or grasping complex metaphysical theories. The only relevant question is, what forces the collapse? What precise catalyst shatters the superposition and solidifies your new existence? In quantum theory, that catalyst is observation. It is the direct involvement of awareness. When an observer intentionally witnesses the system, the wave function is forced to snap into place. It requires zero brute force, striving, or hoarding of knowledge. It simply demands witnessing, intentional focus, and absolute presence. For your own energetic shift, the exact precipice you face today, the solution is identical. It requires deliberate recognition. The exact second you identify the mental static, no longer brushing it off as a generic bad mood, but isolating it as a distinct, alien frequency that holds no truth. Your state of limbo starts to shatter. When you intentionally tune into your authentic core beneath that static, feeling it not as an abstract thought, but as a visceral hum in your chest and behind your eyes, the process speeds up exponentially. And the instant you deliberately decide to align with the new paradigm instead of clinging to the old, the passage is complete. You have crossed the boundary. That is the exact point where your former self expires and your new self breathes its first breath. This process is anything but passive. In fact, it is the most proactive stance you will ever take. I don't mean active through exhausting labor or fighting, but active through unyielding focus, unwavering presence, and absolute alignment. The doorway will not pull you through. You must step through it, and you do so by wielding a level of hyper-awareness and deliberate attention to your internal state that you have never mustered before. Let us break this down further. We need to dissect the realities waiting on either side of this boundary, giving you crystal clear vision of what you are abandoning and what you are embracing. On your current side, the territory plagued by static life carries a very specific weight. It feels suffocatingly heavy. Everything is steeped in exhaustion. There is a relentless underlying belief that basic tasks demand excessive power, and navigating your daily routine feels like endlessly pushing a boulder uphill rather than riding a natural current. Interpersonal connections feel entangled in ways that defy simple explanation. Everyday choices carry an invisible, crushing pressure that completely mismatches the reality of the situation. There is an unending, low-grade hum of deficiency, never quite possessing enough lucidity, enough conviction, or the simple reassurance that you are exactly where you belong, fulfilling your intended purpose. On your current side of the boundary, your true talents feel painfully sporadic. You experience brief intervals of spectacular brilliance. In those flashes, your genuine frequency, your uncorrupted broadcast slices through the noise, leaving you feeling radiant, profoundly driven, and perfectly on course. But invariably, the static aggressively returns. Those flashes evaporate, leaving you stranded, questioning if those moments were even real, if you merely hallucinated them, or if you are doomed to forever merely glimpse your potential rather than live within it. On this side of the boundary, your history carries tangible mass. I am not merely speaking of emotional baggage. I mean literal vibrational mass. The paradigms injected into your aura long before you develop the agency to refuse them are still actively broadcasting. They are constantly injecting their pitch into your energy field, actively distorting the reality you navigate daily. Even if you have engaged in massive self-reflection to dissect and heal these wounds, the noise remains. You might perfectly comprehend why you operate the way you do, possessing deep intellectual awareness of your traumas. Yet, intellectual awareness alone cannot alter a vibrational pitch. Diagnosing the static does not turn off the volume. On this side of the boundary, you also carry a highly specific flavor of isolation that is incredibly difficult to voice. It isn't necessarily a lack of socialization. You might be surrounded by friends, family, and a bustling network. Yet, beneath it all lies a profound solitude, a relentless suspicion that you are vibrating at a slightly different rhythm than the rest of humanity. You notice details others ignore. You comprehend truths others miss. You emit a signal that clashes wildly with the environment you inhabit. This is the isolation of standing before a doorway that the masses are entirely blind to, staring at a precipice that does not exist on society's map. That describes the reality you currently inhabit. Now, let us examine the territory awaiting you. Listen very closely, because what I am detailing is absolutely not a fairy tale, a utopian pipe dream, or a purely theoretical concept. On the far side of this boundary, the static is annihilated. It is not merely repressed, coped with, or temporarily muted through intense meditation. It is eradicated. This happens because the vibrational environment on the other side is entirely hostile to the frequency of that static. They simply cannot survive in the same space. The moment you breach the threshold into a unified, high-vibration state, the disruptive loops that fed off your previous, denser energy field are suddenly starved. They lose their grip entirely. Having nothing left to cling to, they vanish. This is not poetry. It is mechanics. Unified, high-octane energetic fields are utterly immune to the specific distortions that ravage denser fields. The static was never a personal attack against your soul. It was merely a symptom of the low frequency you were trapped inside, and that low frequency was largely built upon the debris stacked upon you before you had the power to protect yourself. Shift the baseline frequency, and the static designed for that lower tier instantly loses its power. On the new side of this boundary, your authentic broadcast transmits with piercing clarity. It doesn't sputter. It doesn't arrive in fleeting bursts. It broadcasts continuously and flawlessly because the jamming signal has been destroyed. You trust your own intellect. You trust your own emotions. You trust your intuition without the exhausting, relentless self-doubt that arises when you cannot separate your inner voice from external noise. On this new side, your inherent gifts solidify. The brilliance you previously only tasted becomes your permanent default setting. The radiant, purposeful, locked-in sensation you used to visit on rare occasions becomes your permanent address. This doesn't happen because you grafted on a new personality trait, unlocked a secret superpower, or memorized a sacred text. It happens purely because the jamming signal that blocked your true nature has been vaporized. The raw, unfiltered power that was always hardwired into your core design is finally operating without obstruction. On the far side of this boundary, your past is stripped of its heavy vibrational mass. This isn't about forced amnesia, nor is it about toxic positivity that ignores unhealed wounds. Rather, the traumatic blueprints implanted within you can no longer find a matching frequency to hook into. Your history transforms from active interference into passive data. It evolves from a disruptive force into pure wisdom. The memories endure. The lessons remain intact. However, the electric charge, the specific vibrational trigger that kept those outdated paradigms aggressively dictating your life, is permanently neutralized. Furthermore, the profound isolation evaporates on this new side. This doesn't happen because your external world instantly shapeshifts, although it inevitably will in time. It happens because your internal emission alters, and the universe merely echoes your energetic state. That jarring sensation of being disconnected from reality vanishes because you are finally fully connected to your own core. Once you achieve this internal harmony, when your broadcast is pure and your energy is unified, you naturally draw in people, places, and situations that perfectly mirror your authentic truth, rather than the distorted static you used to project. This is the reality waiting for you. And right in this very second, you are towing that exact line. Don't waste time doubting if the doorway is real. Your senses already confirm it. Don't question your preparedness either. The mere reality that you are receiving these words is the ultimate proof of your readiness. The only choice left is whether you will stride forward intentionally, fully awake to what you are abandoning and what you are claiming, or if you will pause in doubt until the opportunity shuts, forcing you to wait for another cycle. The energetic window is exactly that narrow. Let us examine that urge to hesitate, because it is incredibly common and deserves our attention. We won't judge it, we will simply illuminate it, because shedding light on fear is how you dismantle it. Pausing at the precipice originates from a distinct area within you. It stems from the psychological scaffolding that has kept your current existence intact. It is the fragment of your mind that adapted to the static, essentially forging an entire persona dedicated to managing that chaotic noise. That specific piece of you is an expert at surviving in a corrupted environment. It possesses tactics, defense mechanisms, and a vast arsenal of reactions engineered purely for the heavy dimension you are currently in. Making the leap renders all those weapons completely useless. They aren't inherently bad, they were brilliant survival tactics for a harsh world, but they are now outdated. The pristine dimension ahead simply has no use for them. Tactics designed to battle static are pointless in a realm of pure clarity. The armor you forged to endure a heavy, dissonant, low-vibration landscape cannot be worn in a space of unified, elevated harmony. Therefore, your reluctance is essentially a panic response from your inner survivor. It asks, if I step through, Who will I be without my armor? If the noise vanishes, where do I direct my survival skills? If the heavy resistance disappears, what becomes of the muscles I built fighting it? These are valid concerns, but the truth is breathtakingly simple. You do not diminish. You expand. The power you forged while battling the heaviness does not evaporate when the struggle ends. Instead, it is liberated, transforming from defensive friction into raw creative fuel. The sharp focus you honed while trying to decipher truth through the static doesn't vanish. It graduates from mere filtering into profound, unobstructed vision. Every ounce of resilience you gained, every lesson you absorbed while swimming through the noise, it all crosses the boundary with you. Absolutely nothing valuable is left behind. The only casualty in this transition is the static. And that noise, lying it behind, is not abandoning a piece of your soul. It is dropping a boulder you were never meant to haul. The individual who steps out onto the far side is not a stranger. You will simply be a distilled, pristine, heavily focused version of yourself. You retain your core essence, your foundational vibration, and all your inherent brilliance, only now they function free from the corruption that has plagued your system for a lifetime. Making this leap doesn't cost you your identity. It unveils it. For the very first time, you meet your true self without the jamming signal. Reflect for a second on a past instance where your intuition realized you had passed a point of no return long before your logical brain processed it. A distinct memory where your previous existence instantly felt like a ghost. An abrupt shift where retreat became impossible. Share that sensation below in the comments. Don't give me the narrative details. Just describe the raw texture of that feeling. Tell me what it felt like to stand on that exact edge. To anchor this, let me share a narrative. Often, high-level concepts, no matter how sharply explained, fail to truly penetrate until they are woven into a relatable human journey. This account centers on a precipice nearly identical to the one you face today. The woman's name was Mara, and she lingered at her doorway for 7 long years. She sensed its presence implicitly. For the vast majority of that time, she felt it in the instinctual way you understand a truth before vocabulary exists to define it. It was a cellular conviction that a new reality was waiting for her just beyond an invisible barrier she couldn't quite put a name to. She had exhausted every conventional method to reach the destination. She analyzed texts, maintained rigorous rituals, and spent countless hours in silent contemplation. She sought out mentors, energy workers, and spiritual advisors. She unearthed and dissected her early life, her ancestral baggage, and depending on your framework, even past incarnations. She purged and transmuted more internal debris than she could quantify. Yet, she remained frozen at the threshold. This wasn't due to a lack of dedication or a deficit in her spiritual worth. It wasn't because the doorway was a myth or locked away. The barrier persisted because she viewed the leap as a process of accumulation rather than a sudden phase shift. She was trying to stockpile enough insight, enough purity, and enough illumination to eventually tip the scales and grant her passage. She treated the transition like a mountain to conquer through gradual, exhausting climbing, rather than an open doorway requiring nothing more than a simple step. And the persistent static within her energy perfectly manipulated this mindset. This ambient noise, the collected vibrations of things that never belonged to her, had mastered the art of impersonating her own inner wisdom. Whenever she approached the edge, close enough to sense the radiant warmth of the next dimension, the static would manufacture a thought that perfectly mirrored her own logic. It utilized doubt, not as a crude weapon, but as a highly sophisticated disguise. Not yet. You aren't prepared. There is one final trauma to unpack, one last epiphany to secure before you can proceed. She bought into the illusion because it echoed profound prudence. It masqueraded as the sensible internal dialogue of a seeker who knew that genuine metamorphosis demands rigorous readiness. It felt like the responsible choice of a mature practitioner recognizing her own limitations, but it was entirely a deception. It was merely the dense vibration of her current reality trying to sustain its own existence. It was the echo of a society that constantly whispered she was lacking, inadequate, and unready, cleverly wearing the mask of her own spiritual caution so she would obey without hesitation. 7 years hovering at the precipice. Then, on an otherwise unremarkable morning, positioned in her standard chair, in her typical room, performing her usual routine, a profound rupture occurred. Not because she had finally gathered enough spiritual currency, not because she had scrubbed away the final stain of trauma, not because a guru finally handed her the missing puzzle piece she had been desperate for. The shift happened solely because she ceased all effort. She quit forcing the transition. She abandoned the hoarding of spiritual milestones. She stopped entertaining the voice of delay, stopped debating it, and stopped attempting to prove her worthiness to it. She simply paused entirely. Within that absolute halt, a profound stillness that transcended passive surrender and became fiercely intentional, awakened focus, she perceived the doorway. It was no longer a philosophical idea, but a literal, vibrating reality, a palpable, energetic texture hovering inches from her physical form. She could sharply distinguish the contrast. Her current realm felt thick, known, and laced with exertion, burdened by the heavy residue she had navigated for decades. Conversely, the vibration awaiting her was pristine, radiant, and anchored in the profound tranquility exclusive to supreme frequencies, vibrantly full, yet utterly devoid of chaos. It lacked the heavy gravity she had grown so accustomed to that she forgot it was even there. In that exact fraction of a second, the truth clicked. Transitioning is never an act of gathering. It is an act of selection. It requires a single, unwavering, fully awakened decision to align with the pristine vibration ahead, rather than the dense static behind. She didn't have to battle the noise, cleanse it, prepare for it, or earn a diploma to escape it. She merely had to pivot toward the new paradigm, allowing the energy of the destination to become far more tangible and valid than the illusion she was standing inside. Her leap possessed zero theatrics. There were no cosmic light shows, no mystical hallucinations, nor any of the grand external validations she had anticipated for 7 years. She made the transition silently, seated in a mundane room on a mundane day. She crossed by intentionally dictating that the higher resonance was her new absolute truth. When her eyes fluttered open, the physical space was identical. The chair hadn't changed. The morning light filtering through the glass was exactly the same. However, the oppressive static was annihilated. The relentless, humming interference that had underscored her entire existence, the noise she had become deaf to because it had been there for a lifetime, had vanished completely. Within that newfound void, her true, unadulterated frequency rang clear for the very first time. No distortion, no crippling second-guessing, no demands for further healing. She was firmly on the far side, and the initial thing she registered wasn't a mind-bending cosmic download or a sudden, overwhelming expansion into the infinite. Her immediate revelation was the profound, immaculate stillness. It resembled the sudden, jarring quiet that follows the unplugging of a loud machine you had grown so accustomed to that you forgot it was even running. That absolute absence of noise is breathtakingly complete. This defines the leap. This exact state is accessible to you this very second. It doesn't require another healing session, nor does it demand you gather more spiritual merits. It happens instantly, right here, through a razor-sharp, intentional decision to anchor yourself to the vibration awaiting you beyond the precipice. Do you harbor a parallel to Mara's inner critic? An internal echo insisting, "Hold on, you aren't prepared," or just one final step first? Describe the exact words that loop in your mind down in the comments. Exposing that voice to the light is a powerful stride toward breaking its hold. I am going to guide you to that very edge immediately. Please do not save this for a future date when you mistakenly believe conditions will be more optimal or serene. Do this now, immersed in whatever surroundings and whatever degree of chaos you currently face. Shift your focus into your physical vessel. Do not analyze your physique, critique its condition, or recall its past traumas. Simply anchor into the raw, tactile reality of occupying human skin At this exact coordinate in time, notice gravity pulling on you, the rhythm of air entering your lungs, and the undeniable pulse of vitality surging through you, independent of any external factors. Truly absorb that sensation. Now, dive deeper than that. Below the tactile feedback, below the respiration, beneath the pure biology of existence, lies another dimension. It is profoundly subtle. This element remains completely unaltered, regardless of physical aging, shifting mindsets, or changing life scenarios. It arrived with your first breath, witnessed every event you have ever endured, and will remain long after this video concludes and you resume your routine. This is your core broadcast. This is your authentic, energetic signature. This is the exact essence that the static has been smothering and warping, yet it has never been corrupted, erased, or weakened. It survives intact. It has forever been present, and it is pulsating within you right now. Can you sense its hum? Don't intellectualize it. Experience it as a concrete fabric of your current reality. It is a tangible presence occupying your consciousness, completely separate from your mental chatter, physical urges, narrative history, and the ambient static. It is a state of pure cognition, pure existence, and pure awareness that simply is untainted, silent, and entirely sovereign. That specific resonance is what awaits you on the far side of the precipice. That is your destination. It isn't alien, nor is it external. You do not need to purchase it, win it, or receive it from a guru. It already belongs to you. It is actively broadcasting, simply operating below the radar of the jamming signal instead of piercing through it. Next, locate the static. Sense that heavy blanket draped over your authentic core. Observe the racing mental loops, the harsh judgments, the insecurities, the constant calculations, and the inherited societal hum programmed into your psyche. Acknowledge the recognizable flavor of your standard, everyday mindset, the subtle friction, the mild heaviness, the lingering suspicion of a roadblock. Now, hold space for both of these realities concurrently. Grasp your pure core broadcast while simultaneously holding the heavy collected noise of what was never yours. Cradle both within your focus. You are now standing on the threshold. You have arrived at the precipice. This is the precise juncture of superposition, where dual realities exist together in your mind, allowing you to vividly contrast their textures. It is time to decide. This isn't an intellectual debate. Do not weigh pros and cons or attempt to rationalize it. This mandate must erupt from the absolute bedrock of your soul, from the aspect of you that possesses innate wisdom, originating from the pure broadcast rather than the distorted noise. Elect the pure broadcast. Choose to demand that the pristine vibration of your true identity becomes vastly more valid than the synthetic noise layered above it. Do not wage war against the static. Do not attempt to shove it aside, analyze it, or cleanse it. Instead, purely, decisively, and with absolute awakened focus, pivot your inner compass toward your authentic core. Lock onto it. Transform it into your soul destination, completely ignoring the obstacles you previously tried to overcome. Observe the reaction when you execute this pivot. Feel how the static that collected mass of foreign vibrations instantly weakens the second you strip away its authority. The moment you revoke your focus, starve it of your vital energy, and refuse to validate it as absolute truth, it begins to disintegrate. It crumbles not from combat, but from starvation. You have removed its only lifeline, your attention. Notice how your pure broadcast surges in power. Feel it rise to the surface. Experience it becoming infinitely more tangible, accessible, and dominant within your reality simply because you chose to face it, leaving the static to wither in the background. This is the transition itself. You are executing it in this very instant. Linger in this space. Do not hurry past this. This is the absolute climax of this message. This is the literal boundary. Everything spoken prior was merely guiding you to the entrance. These current sentences act as the portal itself, And the exact sensation you are holding right now, this unique caliber of focus, this deliberate locking onto your true broadcast instead of the static, is the act of stepping through. Notice the stark contrast between this state and the territory you just left. Absorb the profound silence. Absorb the absolute lucidity. Experience a unique brand of tranquility that isn't void or hollow, but rather richly abundant, without the chaos. It resembles a cloudless sky, vast and complete, yet perfectly unobstructed. Sense your authentic frequency radiating flawlessly, free of any warping or the crippling hesitation bred by confusing your inner voice with ambient noise. Welcome to the new paradigm. You have not landed here as a prize for exhausting labor. It is not a cosmic trophy for suffering sufficiently. Rather, you have entered this dimension by executing a razor-sharp, awake, and intentional decision to align exclusively with your authentic vibration, turning your back on the suffocating static. Now, grasp this crucial reality regarding your current state. It is permanent. This does not imply you will never encounter the static again. You absolutely will. Ancient habits carry momentum. The collected mass of external programming injected into your psyche won't evaporate in a single heartbeat simply because you breached the perimeter. You will undoubtedly sense it tomorrow. There will be instances where it fiercely fights for control, where the former density attempts to drag you backward, making the illusion feel terrifyingly valid. However, this is the monumental shift. Your awareness is forever altered. You have now intimately experienced both realms from the inside out. You have held your true essence and the counterfeit noise side by side. You have tasted the power of deliberately selecting your truth, that profound wisdom, that visceral, cellular recognition contrasting your pure rhythm against the distortion is impossible to erase. No one can confiscate it. It is permanently fused into your energetic blueprint. Whenever the noise attempts a resurgence, you will instantly identify it as a glitch, refusing to accept it as your truth. And with each subsequent decision to pivot toward your pure broadcast instead of the noise, your authentic power amplifies while the static withers. Again, not through warfare, but through starvation, denying it the attention it requires to survive. This is the secret to making your transition unbreakable. It doesn't solidify through one cinematic explosion of absolute enlightenment, but through a compounding series of conscious decisions, each one sharper and more decisive than the previous, locking on to your true north. Every single choice acts as a micro-portal. Every decision is a miniature leap, and every successive leap requires less effort, as your pure broadcast overpowers the fading static, until the noise lacks the energetic currency to project a believable illusion. Eventually, the precipice will be so distant in your rearview mirror that the memory of its paralyzing grip will fade completely. We must now discuss the physical manifestations of this shift. This is critical, as it is the exact point where newly awakened individuals stumble. They anticipate theatrical, instantaneous overhauls across every single facet of their material existence, all at once. When this fails to materialize, when they rise the following dawn to find their external world appears largely identical to yesterday, they falsely assume the transformation was a failure. They deduce the leap was imaginary and believe they have been thrown back into the old dimension. This is a catastrophic misinterpretation of universal mechanics. It is a trap that can literally yank you backward if you surrender to it, because it instantly re-engages the static, the toxic loop of feeling unready, inadequate, and insufficient. This happens right when your fresh, energetic blueprint is at its most vulnerable, desperately trying to stabilize. Let me outline exactly what metamorphoses after you jump, and the precise timeline you can expect. The initial transformation is purely internal, and it is instantaneous. The mental noise, the warping, and that suffocating sensation of endless struggle that previously defined your days instantly loses its supreme authority. It won't evaporate totally within the first few hours or days, but it is dethroned. It shifts from a prison you inhabit into a mere object you passively observe. You will experience stretches of profound lucidity that no longer feel like rare miracles. Instead of fleeting glimpses, These stretches will feel like your permanent default, the new standard definition of who you are. The subsequent shift drastically alters your connection to your intuition. On the toxic side of the boundary, you were plagued by relentless doubt regarding your own insights. You constantly questioned your own insight. You agonized over whether your instincts were accurate or mere projections, wondering if your inner wisdom was authentic or just desperate wishful thinking. Beyond the precipice, that relentless self-interrogation fades away. This isn't because you suddenly achieve absolute, flawless perfection. You don't. It happens because you finally possess the ability to distinguish your pure frequency from the ambient noise. Consequently, you can easily separate an authentic, intuitive hit from a warped illusion. Your inner compass becomes incredibly trustworthy, a stark contrast to the days when you couldn't untangle your own voice from the surrounding chaos. The third transformation involves your baseline vitality. That soul-crushing fatigue, the chronic burnout born from years of wrestling with a dissonant, heavy environment starts to evaporate. It won't vanish entirely overnight, but you will soon notice a renewed reservoir of stamina. Situations that previously drained your life force now demand barely a fraction of that exertion. You are no longer wasting a massive percentage of your daily energy reserves simply defending your aura against the static, because the static has lost the power to demand that defense. The fourth metamorphosis happens in your physical world. Crucially, this evolution is the slowest to materialize. It is precisely here that most individuals falsely assume their leap was a failure. Your physical surroundings, your interpersonal dynamics, and your material conditions will inevitably trail behind your psychological upgrade. This delay is completely natural and required. The current architecture of your life was constructed to match your previous, denser vibration. Those structures cannot instantly shapeshift the second your internal pitch changes. They restructure gradually as your upgraded frequency locks in, eventually acting as a magnet for situations, people, and opportunities that align perfectly with your new baseline. Because of this delay, your absolute highest priority in the coming days and weeks is to firmly anchor yourself in this new dimension. You must aggressively select your pure broadcast over the fading static whenever the noise tries to creep back. Maintain your focus on this elevated state, even if your physical surroundings still mirror the outdated frequency. The material universe will eventually catch up. It is a cosmic guarantee, but that only happens if you hold your ground. Do not allow the time gap between internal evolution and external manifestation to trick you into believing nothing happened. The doorway remains unlocked behind you. This is a secret rarely shared. Once you cross, the passage stays visible not to invite you back into the dense terrain, but to serve as a stark contrast. Whenever the old noise attempts to drag you backward, you can glance at that boundary. You can viscerally sense the dichotomy between the two dimensions, and you can consciously elect to remain exactly where you are. Repeating that decision in mundane moments, during heated arguments, amidst fleeting doubts, and in flashes of brilliance, is what immortalizes the transition. That continuous choice evolves a temporary leap into an unshakable lifestyle. I must now warn you about a highly predictable obstacle that almost everyone encounters right after their leap. It is a distinct type of pushback that must be dragged into the light so it cannot derail you. In the impending days, or perhaps within mere hours, an event will occur that seemingly invalidates your progress. A specific trigger, a negative thought, or a frustrating interaction will pop up, whispering, "Look, nothing is different. You are identical to yesterday. The noise is still dictating your life. The leap was an illusion. Do not fall for this. This is not proof of failure. This is merely the static launching a desperate counterattack to regain control. It is the dying gasp of an outdated vibration losing its grip, projecting one last incredibly persuasive illusion to suck you back into the familiar density. In scientific terms, this phenomenon is known as a phase transition reversal. When a physical structure approaches a critical boundary like water hovering exactly at the boiling point, balancing on the knife's edge between fluid and vapor, it reaches peak vulnerability. The slightest disturbance can revert it to a liquid, The exact boundary line is the most volatile stage of any evolution. It isn't volatile because the shift is fake. It is volatile because the shift is intensely real, and the former reality is fiercely fighting for its survival. Human awareness follows this exact law. The immediate aftermath of leaping past a psychological boundary is the exact window where you are most prone to slipping backward. This pushback doesn't mean your leap was fake. It happens because your former identity is frantically trying to regain control before your new baseline solidifies. The static will scream louder in the coming days than it has in months, specifically because it recognizes its own defeat when this backlash hits, and it absolutely will refuse to view it as a failure. Instead, recognize it as the ultimate confirmation of your victory. That sudden spike in doubt isn't a bug. It's a built-in feature of progress during any profound internal phase transition. The old paradigm only battles this fiercely when it is actively being evicted. This friction proves you have successfully crossed. Stand your ground in this new dimension. Continue opting for your pure essence over the desperate dying echoes of the noise. Observe how rapidly the pushback evaporates the moment you starve it of your focus. See how quickly the illusion crumbles when you simply stop validating it as your reality. The leap is authentic. The new dimension is valid, and you are firmly anchored within it. Before concluding this message, we must examine a vital consequence of today's leap and the broader path unfolding ahead. The heavy static you used to drag around didn't isolate its damage to your internal world. It bled into every single dynamic you engaged in. Your friendships, your artistic expressions, your professional contributions, and your general presence were all broadcast through that distorted filter. Consequently, everything you produced was slightly muted, operating below the optimal level of your true capabilities. This is not a critique of your character. It is simply how energetics work. You cannot broadcast a pristine message through a corrupted channel. You delivered the highest quality output possible under those dense circumstances, and you did so tirelessly. But those limiting conditions are now gone. Your core broadcast is finally unobstructed. Moving forward, the value you provide to your community, your passions, and your chosen mission will carry a profound, laser-focused potency. You haven't magically transformed into a completely different being. You have simply dropped the distortion, allowing your inherent brilliance to shine flawlessly. This profound shift dictates that relationships authentically matched to your pure vibration will instantly grow richer and more resilient. They will feel profoundly supportive and deeply genuine. Conversely, bonds constructed entirely upon the foundation of your old static will inevitably shift. Some individuals will rise to meet your elevated frequency, deepening the tie. Others will drift away because the mutual distortion that once connected you has been eliminated. Do not mourn this as a loss. Celebrate it as course correction. Your reality is automatically recalibrating to match your authentic truth rather than a fabricated persona. Embrace this restructuring. Allow it to unfold naturally. Trust the physics of your new vibration. Have faith that whatever genuinely mirrors your soul will remain and flourish, while anything anchored in the old noise will peacefully fall away. This shedding isn't a tragedy. It's the necessary clearing required to invite your true destiny in. Finally, consider the vast network of souls currently pausing at their own doorways. You are far from isolated in this journey. Countless individuals are currently teetering on the edge, experiencing the agonizing tug-of-war between their pure essence and the heavy static. They are near enough to the precipice to feel the radiant warmth of the next dimension, yet they lack the exact understanding to comprehend the leap. They haven't quite learned to isolate the noise from their truth well enough to pull the trigger. Some of these people are already in your inner circle. Others will gravitate toward you in the coming weeks and months, magnetized by the pristine signal you are now radiating. Many more are consuming messages exactly like this one, paralyzed by the same heavy tension you experienced just moments ago. Your successful leap directly impacts them. I don't mean this in a vague, philosophical sense, but as a literal vibrational upgrade. When you breach a boundary and cement a higher state of awareness, you inject that victorious frequency directly into the human grid. You become living, breathing proof far beyond mere theory that this metamorphosis is entirely achievable. You emerge as a navigational beacon, an energetic lighthouse for those nearing that exact precipice. This isn't an obligation or a heavy duty. It is simply the automatic ripple effect of the leap you just took. You aren't required to perform any extraordinary actions. You don't need to suddenly appoint yourself as a guru, mentor, or spiritual director. Your only responsibility is to hold your ground in this new dimension. Continue to intentionally select your authentic broadcast. Keep pivoting toward your pure vibration, and your mere presence will handle the rest. The unified harmony you now project is, in itself, a profound gift to the human energetic network. Your existence is an act of service. However, there is one tangible action you can take within the comments sections, during daily conversations, and through the relationships that coalesce around insights like this one. You can document your journey. Share the visceral reality of staring down the doorway. Describe the suffocating texture of the mental noise from the inside out. Articulate the exact sensation of the leap and the transformation that followed. Do not do this from a pedestal, playing the role of an enlightened master who holds all the universe's secrets. Share it simply as a traveler who has breached the boundary, offering a glimpse of the horizon to those still walking the path. That raw, unfiltered, first-hand testimony of what a psychological phase transition genuinely feels like is arguably the greatest gift you can bestow upon someone who is stuck exactly where you were when this video began. The harsh reality is that the vast majority of spiritual teachings available today are tragically flawed. They are either so painfully academic that they are utterly useless in real life, or so highly sensationalized that they trigger immediate skepticism. What is desperately lacking, and what the collective desperately hungers for, is the unvarnished truth, the razor-sharp, objective, and deeply grounded testimony from a fellow human being who genuinely stood at the threshold and stepped through. If this message activated something within you, if a genuine internal rupture occurred, if you sensed the undeniable heat of the boundary, or if you made the transition even in a microscopic way, please document it in the comments below. Do not do this to seek applause, to build a brand, or to signal your spiritual superiority. Do it as a pure, selfless offering for the inevitable stranger who stumbles upon this video tomorrow, trapped at the exact same precipice you just conquered. Your testimony, your highly specific and transparent description of your internal shift, might be the exact catalyst that empowers them to abandon hesitation and finally take the leap. The energetic web is shared, but the transitions are solitary. Yet, every single solitary leap fortifies the shared web, easing the friction for whoever jumps next. Now, we must address the critical phase of assimilation. Executing the leap is only the first stage. Solidifying that transition, anchoring the new dimension, and ensuring your pure broadcast becomes your permanent foundation rather than just a fleeting spiritual high that is your sole mission for the upcoming weeks and months. This assimilation process is not complex. It does not demand you adopt bizarre new rituals, memorize complex theories, or add another exhausting chore to your overloaded schedule. At its core, assimilation is simply the relentless habit of remembering your location. It is the repeated decision to favor your pure essence over the toxic noise. It is the commitment to continually snap back to the razor-sharp clarity you unlocked during this message, that pristine, silent, uncorrupted hum of your true self, and establishing that state as your ultimate true north, completely ignoring the static. Here is what that looks like in the trenches of everyday life. Every single dawn, before you allow the chaos of the world to infiltrate your mind, before you grab your device, before you stress over your to-do list, and before you merge into the frantic highway of societal anxiety, pause. Take a fleeting moment to locate your true broadcast. Tune into the immaculate vibration of your authentic core. Purposefully angle your internal compass toward this new dimension, actively turning away from the static. This isn't meant to be a rigid, formal meditative chore where you stress about doing it perfectly. It is merely a vital recalibration, a quick, daily commitment to acknowledging which side of the boundary you live on now. The objective here is absolutely not to float through your entire day in an uninterrupted state of Zen-like perfection. That is a fantasy, and aiming for it will only cause frustration. The true objective is to solidify your pure broadcast as your home base. It is the sanctuary you retreat to when chaos knocks you off balance. It is the lighthouse you scan for when the noise attempts a comeback. Because you now intimately understand its texture and location, you can always find your way back, and the noise will inevitably return. It will assault you daily, wearing countless different masks, but you now possess a weapon you previously lacked: conscious choice. When the static flares up, you can choose to engage it, grant it your focus, and permit it to masquerade as your reality once more. Or you can objectively observe it, label it strictly as a disruption rather than absolute truth, and intentionally pivot back to your pure essence. You do not fight the disruption. You do not exhaust yourself trying to shove it away. You simply select the pure signal instead. Making that precise choice over and over again is the very definition of assimilation. Executing that choice every single time the static rears its ugly head is the exact mechanism that renders your leap unbreakable. That relentless repetition is what transforms a temporary breakthrough into an entirely new paradigm of existence. The second pillar of assimilation involves granting your external reality the necessary time to catch up, without attempting to micromanage or force the process. Having breached the boundary, your energetic field is currently undergoing a massive structural overhaul. Your tangible environment is beginning the slow process of morphing to match your upgraded vibration. Scenarios are realigning. Relationships are naturally discovering their new baseline. Fresh doors are starting to open that perfectly harmonize with the pure signal you are now broadcasting. Allow this to unfold on its own timeline. Do not attempt to speed up the process by aggressively altering your physical world before your internal foundation is rock solid. Avoid the urge to tear down your entire life just because you underwent a massive psychological shift. Allow the inner transformation to steer the ship, and let the outer world catch up organically. Have absolute faith in the vibration. Trust that whatever truly resonates with your core is already migrating toward you. Your only duty is to remain anchored in this new paradigm, standing open and ready to accept these gifts as they arrive. There is a highly specific trap at this phase that we must expose. It is the powerful urge to audit your leap, the compulsion to hunt for physical proof that it was legitimate by frantically checking your surroundings for instant upgrades. You might try to grade the success of your transition by measuring the visible makeovers in your life. Reject this urge immediately. This isn't because the physical upgrades are a myth, they are absolutely coming. However, the very habit of anxiously hunting for proof, constantly analyzing and tallying results, is a direct relapse into the toxic static. It is simply that old, inadequate, and unready programming wearing a new mask. Instead of telling you that you aren't prepared to jump, it whispers that there isn't enough proof that the jump worked. It is the exact same sabotage disguised in a different outfit. Your leap is an absolute fact. You experienced it. You hold the knowing. Trust that internal validation. Rely on your own truth, and permit the physical evidence to gather on its own natural schedule, without demanding it meet deadlines fabricated by the lingering echoes of your inner critic. The threshold is in your rearview mirror. Let me repeat that, as it is the most vital revelation of our entire time together. The doorway is now behind you. It is no longer a future destination. It isn't a goal you are walking toward, training for, or trying to earn. It is behind you. You made the transition during this exact session, in this precise fraction of time, through your deliberate command to lock onto your true essence instead of the noise. You stepped through. Every single thing that follows occurs within this new dimension. All future developments, every encounter, every dynamic, every situation, every artistic endeavor, and every act of contribution will be born from this elevated space. It will spawn from your pristine broadcast, entirely free from the old distortion. You are occupying a fundamentally different reality than you were 60 minutes ago. Not because your living room looks different, it doesn't. Not to the naked eye. It is new because your energetic baseline has leveled up. The caliber of awareness you use to interact with the universe has been fundamentally upgraded. That suffocating noise that scrambled your truth, that convinced you the leap was a delusion, that endlessly chanted you aren't worthy, that static has been permanently stripped of its crown. From this vantage point, the landscape is altered. It isn't a jarring, alien world where you no longer recognize your own home, but it is transformed in the way a room feels different when a loud, buzzing alarm is finally switched off. The world is sharper, more serene, vastly more authentic, and infinitely more accessible. Your natural talents are unleashed. Your vision is unobstructed. Your intuition is unlocked. Your ability to exist in the raw present moment without the exhausting, invisible tax of fighting the static is fully restored. And your life's purpose, regardless of how it manifests or what unique flavor your authentic truth brings to the collective, is radically amplified because it is no longer bleeding through a corrupted filter. It transmits through the pure channel, unified, brilliant, and exactly as the universe intended. This is the promised land beyond the threshold. This is your new permanent address. Pause to absorb this. Do not overthink it, grade it, or break it down into intellectual components. Simply embody where you stand. Notice the caliber of the energy surrounding you right now. Contrast the heavy fabric of your mindset when you first press play against the weightless clarity you feel in this exact second. Sense the precipice firmly at your back, the boundary you shattered, and the outdated paradigm you abandoned in the dust. Breathe in the reality of being here. This is absolute truth. The sensations flooding you now are valid. Your core broadcast is undeniable. The leap was successful, and the future that blossoms from this exact coordinate, from this elevated vibration, from this new dimension, is brilliantly real. You have arrived. The doorway is in the past, and regression is impossible. If you feel called to revisit these words in the future, perhaps during a quiet moment when you face a new edge and require a reminder of what leaping feels like, ensure you do so with profound intention. This particular message resonates entirely differently upon a second listen, when you are no longer a fearful traveler approaching the boundary, but a conqueror standing on the far side, absorbing the nuances you previously overlooked. Furthermore, if you sense someone in your life paralyzed at their own precipice, if you can palpably feel the crushing weight they are hauling through that hallway of doubt, send this to them. Do not share it as a casual suggestion. Offer it as a lifeline. The simple fact that you successfully leaped lowers the barrier for others. This is the mechanics of the energetic web. Mutual recognition of the boundary amplifies the power of both individuals simultaneously. Before we conclude this journey, I must address one final truth regarding the essence of these doorways, why they manifest, and their broader purpose within the current evolution of global awareness. These portals do not emerge by chance. Precipices are never accidental. The distinct junctures that arise during your mental expansion materialize at the exact right moment by absolute design. They appear because your internal vibration has climaxed at the precise pitch required for passage. The state of limbo has become perfectly unstable, ensuring the old reality shatters into the new paradigm. Every single event necessary to guide you to this ledge has already taken place. You did not arrive at this edge by coincidence. The 7 years Mara lingered at her boundary were not a squandered era. They were the exact incubation period needed to forge a vibration strong enough to breach the barrier. Every meditation, every tear shed, and every hour of searching added fuel to the energetic fire that finally made the leap achievable. Her transition didn't occur in spite of that long wait. It was entirely born from it. The same applies to your timeline. Regardless of how long you have dedicated to this inner expansion, how many years you spent frozen at the edge, or the mountains of trauma you unpacked, none of it was in vain. That was your runway. That was the gathering of your energetic momentum. It was the vital sequence of events designed to deliver you safely to the exact precipice you conquered today. Yet, the leap you executed just now, this monumental shift in reality, is absolutely not your final boundary. It is merely the inaugural doorway in this higher dimension. Moving forward, you will encounter further edges, subsequent leaps, elevated states to anchor into, and infinitely more brilliant variations of your soul to uncover. However, every future leap will demand less exertion. This isn't because the boundaries shrink in importance. They actually grow much more profound as you ascend into radically purer vibrations. They become easier simply because you have mastered the physics of the jump. You understand the architecture. You can instantly distinguish your pure broadcast from the toxic static. You have practiced selecting your truth. You intimately recognize the internal friction of a boundary, and you know the profound peace awaiting you on the far side. That concrete wisdom, the cellular lived comprehension of navigating boundaries and surviving phase shifts, is the ultimate prize you extract from our time together. It eclipses any philosophical theory or intellectual framework. The visceral triumph of facing the edge and stepping over it is yours forever. You will inevitably face new portals. You will re-experience that agonizing friction. The mental noise will undoubtedly return, pitching persuasive arguments for retreating into the comfort of the old density. You will be torn between the gravity of your past and the magnetism of your future, navigating the limbo of holding two conflicting identities at once. But next time, you won't freeze, because you hold the blueprint. You know the mechanics. You understand that the barrier evaporates the second your internal pitch mirrors your destination, and you know exactly how to tune that dial. It isn't achieved through grueling labor, hoarding spiritual merits, or proving your worth. It happens purely via selection, via focus, via the razor-sharp, awakened command to lock onto your true essence instead of the suffocating noise. Every single boundary you meet from this day forward will be breached with absolute conviction. You will wield unshakable faith in the universe's mechanics and in your own identity as a seasoned traveler, solely because you succeeded today, because you possess the proof that the new dimension exists, because you have bathed in the flawless vibration of your authentic core, free from static, cementing the truth that this utopia is real, accessible, and rightfully yours. This is the ultimate reward of this initial breakthrough. It extends far beyond the fresh reality you inhabit. It is the absolute confirmation that metamorphosis is achievable. It is the cellular conviction that the barriers are illusions, the destination is solid. You possess the power to leap, and no future ledge will ever keep you trapped. You are an entity that shatters boundaries. That is your core definition now. It is what you were designed to be from birth, but today you finally realize it. The program is officially online, and it wasn't switched on by an outside savior, a cosmic guide, or this very message. It was activated strictly by your own sovereignty, by your awakened, intentional, and fierce mandate to face your true vibration and turn your back on the static. The ignition key was always in your pocket. The doorway was always yours to conquer. Your pure broadcast always belonged to you. It was never misplaced, broken, or diluted. It was simply waiting for you to claim it. Today, you claimed it. The precipice is now behind you. Welcome to the new paradigm. In the impending days, when the noise inevitably tries to claw its way back, and it will, as assimilation requires patience and old habits die hard, anchor yourself back to the precise sensation you uncovered during this transmission. Return to that precise state of mindfulness you unlocked when you first noticed your pure essence vibrating beneath the noise. Revisit that exact point of decision, that split second of internal alignment, that specific instant where you pivoted toward your truth and felt the transition ignite. This state remains perpetually at your disposal. It isn't merely a nostalgic memory. It is an active, living vibration you can tap into whenever you intentionally focus your awareness upon it. Your core broadcast never vanishes. It never weakens, dulls, or becomes more difficult to reach as the clock ticks forward. In reality, it amplifies. With every single choice to tune into it, every time you prioritize it, and every instance you allow it to be more valid than the toxic static, you exponentially increase its power within your personal aura. As days turn into weeks and months of this deliberate, unbroken focus, the mental noise will bleed out so much energetic mass that it will completely fail to project a believable illusion. It will fade into a faint, insignificant background hum you hardly even register, entirely losing its status as the dictator of your reality. Meanwhile, your true broadcast, the pristine, unified expression of your authentic identity, will lock in so securely and dependably that it simply becomes your natural, default state of existence. This is the ultimate goal. This is the precise target your leap was aiming for. It is not about a theatrical, overnight overhaul of your material world in one miraculous flash. Rather, it is a relentless, permanent, compounding upgrade in the foundational energy you use to navigate the universe. It is the evolution from static to clarity, from illusion to absolute truth, from the crushing fatigue of battling a dense dimension to the frictionless grace of embodying your most genuine self. You are firmly on the path. The precipice is in the past. Your true broadcast is fully live, and your destined reality, the genuine existence perfectly synchronized with your pure vibration, the life that patiently waited for you on this new frontier, is currently forming all around you in this exact second. Absorb this truth. Rely on it. Anchor yourself exactly where you are. You have successfully made the leap, and from this breath onward, your entire future unfolds strictly within this new paradigm.